Right. Kun je mij nog horen?
Ja. Ja, ik hoor je nou wel.
Maar ik zie je niet.
Nee.
Je hebt je camera niet aanstaan.
Ik ben mijn hele Zoom kwijt.
Okay.
Tadaa!
Hey!
Hello everyone.
Hallo Ronald, hallo Noortje.
Hi!
All those beautiful people.
Hey Noortje, wat leuk jij er ook weer te zien. Hè?
Ja, hè?
Dat zonder echo.
Hey. Zeg mij.
When you hear an echo, you get me twice for the same price.
Sorry.
Het was toch gratis?
Exactly.
Dat bedoelt hij
Same
ook.
price.
Nou, jou horen we altijd wel goed, alleen de andere rest krijgen we steeds met echo.
All right, guys, let's start. How did it go the last week? Have you been practicing writing the letters and the alphabet? Was it helpful?
Ik loop zelf nog heel erg achter. Dus ik ben nog niet zo ver. Ik ben eigenlijk nog bezig met de vorige keer alles een beetje netjes op te schrijven.
It's always good to practice and to plan in your diary or agenda 1 or twice a week or even every day, half an hour, just to plan it and then do it.
Ja.
If you leave it open and not make a dedicated time, it's very difficult to catch up again. Hello, everyone. Okay. We just heard the conference of our Prime Minister. And no conferences until the 1st of September. So no Dr. O in June in person. I have to find out what it means if he can come on live stream. So we'll wait to see if that happens. Okay. Oh. Change view. Sorry, guys. I need to pin video for the recording. And it's recording. Okay, the last time we did all the different letters, and I hope you were successful, and we did the gematria of the letters, and we did the gematria of the name of the letters. So it's just good background information, but it's interesting to know that the gematria for the letter Aleph is 111, and 111 is of course 3. And it's a symbol of the Trinity. So while the Aleph is also the name of God, Yud He Vav He, it's also the letter for the Trinity. Let's have a look if we can. I'm just muting you guys so that we don't have echo. And I had an echo on my ears. So we're going now with the rest of chapter 1, and we're going to share a short video from Charles about the gutturals from the book. You got the book, good, Amanda, you got it. And we go to gutturals and Reish, and I'm going to share the video. It's 55 minutes, so let's have a look if that's working.
Gutturals and Reish. 4 of the Hebrew letters, consonants, are gutturals. These are Aleph, and Ayin, and He, and Chet. They're called gutturals because they're pronounced near the back of the throat, or at the back of the throat. they'll tend to change vowels. They'll tend to change vowels to make them be pronounced further at the back of the mouth to match where these consonants are pronounced. There's another consonant, resh, that sometimes behaves like a guttural. It's not a guttural, but it'll sometimes behave like guttural, and so often as you move through Hebrew you'll hear these referred to together as a group, gutturals and resh.
Okay. Could you follow the video? Thumbs up if you could. Okay. Gutturals and resh, it's just an example of letters that are more the sound of wind blowing instead of like a sound of a letter that has an ending, like a D and a B. And there are letters that have no ending. We'll come to that soon, but these letters are in the back of the throat, and the aleph is not pronounced, and the ayin is not pronounced, and the hey, it's only in the beginning, but it's in the back of the throat, and you can continue to hey. Only the chet is in the back of the throat and has an ending. The resh can be spoken on 2 manners, in the front of the mouth, like a r, and in the back of the mouth, like a r. It's the back of the mouth. So that's all we need to know about this. And then I continue with 1-4, letters with dots. In the last session, we did a little bit about them, but we will see again that the letters, begat kefat letters, and that's something you need to remember, gebat kefat. What? I hear myself. So I'm gonna show this video.
Letters with dots. There are 6 letters in the Hebrew alphabet that can take a special dot. And these are sometimes called the Begad Kafat letters, which is a mnemonic to help you remember which letters they are. So let's write them down here. B, G, D, K, F, and T, hence Begad Kafat. Begad Kafat. Now let's write them again down here with their dots. Historically, these letters could be pronounced in one of 2 ways. They could be pronounced as a continuous sound, which is what the top row here represents without the dot, or they could be pronounced as a stop, where there's a stoppage of breath, as in the bottom row here with these dots. The dot is known as a dagesh lene. Dagesh lene, or a weak dagesh. Lene just means weak. There's another dagesh in Hebrew that we'll deal with later. Now, not all of the distinctions have been maintained over time. This one in particular, this is pronounced the same. They're both g. Whether it has the dagesh lene or whether it doesn't, it's both g. And in modern Hebrew, these 2 are pronounced the same. Dalet is pronounced d, and tav is pronounced t, regardless of whether it has a dagesh or not. Some people will pronounce the dalet without the dagesh as the, as in the th in the, and this is d, so d and the. Likewise, some will pronounce these 2 differently. This will be t and this will be th, th as in thin. In modern Hebrew, these distinctions are lost, and so these 3 letters, the tav, the dalet, and the gimel, are all pronounced the same. The other 3, however, are pronounced differently. The beit without the dagesh is pronounced v, as in v. So you could say veit, I suppose, while this is b, as in beit. So these are not pronounced the same. The kaf is also pronounced differently. This is ch, as in loch or bach, and this is k. So ch and k. You can hear how ch is a sound that, oh, maybe this is not the best example, but it's a fricative or aspirant. It's a continuous sound, while k is a hard sound that stops. So these two are not pronounced the same. And f versus p. Here you can really see the difference between a continuous sound, f, theoretically you could hold that as long as you wanted, while p is a sound that is a stop. You can't hold that for a long time. So these two are pronounced differently. They're not pronounced the same. One note on transliteration. If a Begad Kafat letter has a Dagesh in it, it just takes the normal transliterated letter, in this case B, for instance. If it doesn't have the Dagesh, you put a little line under it. I'll write it up here. So B with a line under it for V. Likewise here, for instance, you'd have Tav, T rather, with a line under it. Well, this would be transliterated as just a straight T.
Yes. I need to stop that. Still getting messages coming in. The Gebat Kefat letters are important because in the pronunciation of the words, there's a difference in at least 3 of them. There is no difference in the gematria of the letters, but there is a difference in the pronunciation of the letters. And in translations, this is almost lost. The greatest example is Avraham. You speak, when you read in Torah, you see it Avram and not Abram, like a B, and Avraham and not Abraham. So in translations in our language and in English, the B is pronounced as a B and not a V. So it should be Avraham. And there are other examples also where you can find by translating issues that the names and of places or words have been pronounced differently. So remember the I don't know how you call that, the Begat Kefat, the Anoma or so, something, how you can remember these letters, the B, the Beit, the Gimel, the Dalet, the Kaf, the Pe, and the Taf. These are the letters that have double pronunciation and the same gematria. Any questions now? Do you have any questions about this? It's not so difficult, but it's important to understand.
Hi, Ronald. Hi.
Hi.
The Begat, whatever, I'm trying to note it down. Help.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will write it down. Share content, whiteboard.
Thank you.
It's the B, the Gimel, the Dalet, the Kaf, the Pe, and oh, that should be a T. Let's make it bigger. The Beit.
Wel van rechts naar links, hè, Ronald?
I know. The Gimel. The Dalet. The Kaf. The Pe. and the taf. And the letters without a dot have a line under it when you transcribe them. The pe and the taf. So the transliteration of these words of these letters, when they are soft, then they have a line under it. You see here the line. And when they are hard, they have no line under it. That's the normal B, the normal G, the normal D, K, the P, and the T. This is important when you are doing exercises and when you have the exercise of to transliterate a Hebrew text into Latin text or the other way around. So you have to know when to underline a letter and when not. The interesting part is that, where is it? There. This dot here, it's called a Dagesh Lene. And weak Dagesh. And when there is a weak Dagesh, there is also a strong Dagesh, Dagesh Forte, and that will be in a later lesson that we will discuss the difference. When there is a dot in a letter, it can have a different meaning, but that is for later. I hope this is more clear. Then we go to the next session. So we have these 6 letters that have a double pronunciation. 3 of them, you can't hear it normally very good. That's the G, the D, and the T. It's very difficult to pronounce them differently, but 3 of them have a very distinctive pronunciation. It's the B, the bait, it's the kaf, and it's the pe. We go to the next movie.
Final letter forms. Hebrew has 5 consonants that have a different form at the end of a word. The first one is kaf. In the middle of a word or at the beginning, kaf looks like that. At the end of a word, it takes this form. Nun is the second consonant that has a final letter form, and it looks like this. So both the kaf and the nun have a final letter form with a descender that descends below the baseline. Also, they're very similar. It's just this top piece here, the top bar, that's different. So when you write them, be careful to make sure that your nun has a short bar and that your kaf, the top bar for the kaf, extends to distinguish them. The third letter, or a third letter, is pe. Normally it looks like that. The final form looks something like this. It also has a long descender. And sade. The medial form is like this, and the final form also has a long descender. So 4 of the 5 final forms have descenders that descend below the baseline. The last form, the last letter that has a final form is mem. The medial form looks like that, and the final form looks a bit like a square. And this one does not have a descender that goes below the baseline. So to recap again, we have Kaf and Nun. We have final Pei, final Tzadeh, and final Mem.
I will write them out again and put the gematria next to it. That's interesting. We have the Kaf, make it a different color. The Kaf and the final Kaf. The transliteration is the same, but the value is different. The value for the Kaf normally is 20. But for the final Kaf, it can either be 20, the same value as the normal Kaf, or it can become 500. So the final Kaf can have two numbers for the gematria. Either the number of the original letter, 20, or the number 500. That is the after 400 from Taf comes 500 for final Kaf. Well, the same is true for the next one, the Mem. And you know, I write them slightly different, but it's okay. And this is the final Mem. This is number 40, normally, or it's 40, the same value as the regular letter, or it is 600. And note, when you write them like this, be aware of this little n that is extended to the left a little bit more. And the final Kaf has this extension at the right side. Oh, sorry. You go to the next one. It's the Nun. And the final Nun. This one has value 50. And this one is either 50 or 700. And like Charles already said, when you write a final Nun, pay attention that this is very small and this is large. So the difference between the final Nun and the final Kaf is that the Kaf has a longer line at the top. And even if you don't make this line long enough, the vertical line, you get a Dalet, because if this is too short, it can look like a Dalet. So be sure to make it longer. The next one is Pei. And again, we all have our writing styles. This is how I learned it. Oh, this is a very big Pei. And the final Pei, long, like this. The value of Pei is 80. So it's 80 and 800. And the last one is Tzadeh. Normal Tzadeh, final Tzadeh. The Tzadeh is 90 So this is either 90 or 900. There you have it. And like Charles said, there are 4 of these letters go below the line of the square. It's the kaf, the nun, the pe, and the tzadeh. And without a dot, it is still the same letter. When you lose this dot, it's a K with a line under it. And this will be the pay with a line under it. The gematria is the same, but the writing is different. You will miss this dot over here. Any questions? You can find in the book on page 26 some words that are being used with final letters, like lach. Maybe I can write it down. I think I forgot to save my whiteboard. Yeah, I forgot to save my whiteboard. Lach. Yep. And as you can see, if you transliterate that, you get the L for the lamed, the A with a line on top of it, and the K with the line beneath it. We will learn this in the next chapter, why this kametz has this T is called the kametz. This is a A sound. The next one is yom. And we put a dot above it. Lach means aan jou or to you. And yom means dag or day. The next one is gen. With a final nun. Transliterated, the H with a dot under it, the E with a line above it, and the normal N. And it means grace. Gen. The next one is kaf. And you transliterate with a K, a normal A, and a P with a line under it. And it means hand. That's interesting because this is also the name for the Hebrew letter, kaf, and it means literally hand. And the last one is eretz. And remember, the aleph is transliterated as a comma that goes from left back to left, from left to right. The eretz is like this, the normal R, the normal E, and an S with a dot beneath it, and it means earth. So these are some examples of final letters and how you write them, what the gematria is. And the next session is similar letters. And these are letters that almost look the same. So when you don't are meticulously accurate in writing down the letters, and somebody else reads what you have written down, then you get a different word. That's why studying to the study to write the Hebrew language formally takes so many times. It's years of study before you are even allowed to write something that becomes a Torah scroll. And it has all to do with the respect and how to get the correct movement of the hand to write the letters. So we're going to share the next session, similar letters, and it's about the Gimel and the Nun and the Dalet and the Hey and the Vav and the Tet and the Tzaddik. So pay attention. Here we go.
Letters that look similar. There are a few letters in the Hebrew alphabet that look similar but are different and need to be carefully distinguished. One pair is the Beit and the Kaf. Now, the way I've written them here, they look quite different, but if you write them fast, you may end up, some people write their Beit like this, and then their Kaf like this, and it looks very similar. This is a two-stroke letter. You got one stroke here, and then a second stroke. Kaf is single stroke, just one rounded stroke. The other feature, main distinguishing feature, is that this is square. This has got a right angle here at the top, and this is round. Actually, right angle down here as well. So, this is the way they should look, not something like this. Another pair are the Sin and Shin, and I'm going to write them this way for a reason. Here's the Sin, and here's the Shin. So the Sin has the dot on the left, the Shin has the dot on the right. How do you distinguish these things? How do you remember them? One way to remember which is which is if you write the alphabet out in Hebrew, which of course is right to left, and if you learn to say it or sing it, then you will say Sin, Shin, Sin and Shin and Tav. So when you write the alphabet this way and when you say it, Sin and Shin, the dots are together. So if you've memorized the alphabet Sin and Shin, and you can remember, okay, the dots are together, therefore this must be Sin, this must be Shin. I don't know if this is helpful for you, but anyway, don't confuse those two. The placement of the dot is what tells you the difference between those two letters. Another pair, and this is a classic pair, is the Dalet and the Resh. And when you're writing these things fast, it's easy to confuse them. And sometimes even in printing, a small font, it'll be hard to tell. The key difference is right here. The Dalet is a two-stroke letter with an angle, sharp angle, and the Resh is rounded. The Dalet can also be confused with the final Kaf if you don't write it well. Oops, I kind of squiggled there, but the final Kaf has a descender that descends below the baseline. That's the difference between these two. So if you're writing Hebrew and you don't extend this down far enough, someone may think you have a final Dalet. Another pair that is easy to confuse is the Chet and the Hey. Again, the difference here is that this is a single stroke letter and this is a two stroke. You draw this line and then this line. And the main visual effect, after you've drawn it, is this gap. The Hey has the gap. The Chet, there's no gap here. So be careful to write those correctly. The Chet can also get mixed up with the Tav. And the difference here is that the Tav has a little tail right here. But if you're writing those fast, you forget the tail, the little tail down here, then they can look similar. And if you close your gap on your hey and your tav could also be confused. So all of these three really here, you have to be careful to write those correctly. Another set is the vav, which I guess is written like this. I often just write a line for vav, sort of a slightly slanted line. The vav and the zayin. The difference here, well, similarities first. They both have a long stroke that is slightly slanted from the top to the bottom. They both have that. The vav has a little bit of a top to it, the way it's printed and the way most people write it, although I don't. The difference between the two is that zayin, the top extends right across, not just on one side. And in terms of writing, this is a single stroke letter. Go here, then down. This is two. You draw the line, the main line, and then you put the little top on it. So single versus double stroke. But visually, what you're looking for is to make sure that your final form here, when you're finished drawing it, writing it, has a top that extends, and this one doesn't. So zayin and vav. And these two can also, if you're not careful, be confused with your final nun. Remember, your nun looks like this when it's initial or medial. A final nun has a little top to it and extends down below the baseline. If you don't put a long enough tail on it, it's going to look like one of these two. So these three you need to distinguish. So let's maybe recap briefly here. We have beit and kaf, sharp angles, two strokes. We have sin and sheen. We have dalet and reish. Remember this corner when you write this, give it an angle, and reish, don't put an angle on there. So dalet and reish, and dalet and final kaf. Make sure you got the descender on the final kaf. Chet and hey, make sure your hey has a gap. And chet and tav, make sure your tav has the little tail on it. That'll keep it distinguished from both the chet and the hey. And finally, we have our vav, our zayin, and our final nun. Remember the tops to distinguish the vav from the zayin. And remember with your final nun to extend it below the baseline to distinguish it from the zayin and the vav.
Okay. I will add some extra because they're in the textbook. We now have the beit and the kaf, the gimel and the nun, the dalet, the reish and the final kaf, the hey, the chet and the tav, the vav, the zayin and the final nun, and sin and shin. And if I'm correct, there are three others we need to learn. So I will add them now. They're from the book, whiteboard. The first one has to do with the mem and the tet. When you write them as we learned them, you don't see much, you see a great difference. Oh, sorry. These letters are very much distinctive, but when you write them in the print, I try to make it correctly. It's like this, and it's like, and when you see them in print, I sometimes made the mistake between these two letters, especially at the top. It seemed like it's almost the same letters, and this line even goes a little bit more. So, but when you handwrite them, the difference is clear, but the mem and the tet when you see them in print, they look similar because they're almost same print. The next one is final mem. It's like this, and the samech. So when you write them fast, and when you see the print, final mem is almost the same, like this, but the samech is like this. So this is in print, make it clear, and this is in handwriting. In print, they almost look the same, but in handwriting, there is a difference. But be aware that this part of the samech is round and then mem is a square. And the next one has to do with the tzade and the ayin. Especially also in print, they look similar, but in the beginning, when I start writing Hebrew, I also made the mistake between these two letters that the tzade and the ayin, I mixed them up. And the final tzade is of course like this, and it's a longer one. No, save. Okay, this is the paragraph 1.6 from the book. Oh. The next session is that letters that sound the same. That is not really in the book, but we will find it. The letters that sound the same. I can't find it in the book, so. But it's still a lesson. So we watched the last lesson for tonight, I think, is letters that sound the same.
Letters that sound the same. There are a few letters in the Hebrew alphabet that look different but sound the same. The first set is the Tav, at least if you're following modern Hebrew pronunciation, with or without the Dagesh Lene, and the Tate. And these are all pronounced T, as in our English T. So the Tav and the Tate, pronounced T. Another pair is the Sin. Remember, if the dot is on this side, it's Sin. If it's on this side, it's Shin, pronounced Sh. So the Sin and the Samech, they are both pronounced like our English S, S. The third pair is the Kaf with the Dagesh and the Kof. And these are both pronounced like the hard C, K, as in our English K. There are two other letters that sound similar. In practice, they're usually pronounced the same by most students of Hebrew, I suspect. One pair is the Kaf without the Dagesh and the Chet. Most books will tell you to pronounce these as the Ch in Loch or Bach, this sort of German-sounding Ch. In reality, I suppose this is not really the same as this. This is more Ch, and this is Ch. I can't maintain that distinction in reading Hebrew, though. It just is too difficult for me personally. The other set that you could say sound the same, or at least similar, is the Aleph and the Ayin. And for all practical purposes, they're simply silent. The Aleph is like the H in air. There's this initial stoppage of breath, air. And ayin is a little bit deeper in the throat, ayin. Again, I can't maintain that distinction. For most of my Hebrew reading, they're simply silent letters. So, to recap, we have Tav and Tate, pronounced T. We have Sin and Samech, pronounced like the S. We have Kaf with the Dagesh and Kof, pronounced K. We have Kaf without the Dagesh and Chet, both pronounced Ch. And we have Ayin, Aleph and Ayin, which are pronounced as silent letters.
Sorry, that was a song. We have forgotten one set of letters that sound the same and are different. Has anyone got a clue? Almost sound the same, but they are different. Anybody?
F.
Nobody?
F. The V.
The V?
V.
Yes, yeah. And which other letter? Which letter is the V sound?
The bed.
Yes.
De Waaf.
Correct.
Kijk.
Hey.
10 punten. Yes, high five. Yes, okay.
10 punten. The beit and the vav have both the V sound, like in voor or van in English. So when you have av, you don't speak out up, but av. That means the word ava now it's becoming interesting. Here it says but this is for a later lesson. We will continue later. But the V sound for the beit without the dagesh lene, so without this dot in here, is pronounced as a V, and the vav is a V or W sound. V haaretz or V haaretz. Ah, I forgot to share. Sorry. I have to take that picture from the film. Okay. What I will do now is do the exercises with you. Because the paragraph 1.7 we did last week completely. We wrote out every letter, how to write them, and we put the gematria, we made the table of it. So what we're going to do now is the exercises, exercise 1.8. And I would like to share the answers with you if you want them. I've set up a Dropbox folder, and I would like to share that with you, where everything of this class is putting into. All the videos are in there. I downloaded them, every one of them. I downloaded them from internet. So if at one time somebody decides to take them away from from YouTube, we still have them, so we can continue. But also there are some answer sheets, the exercises are there, and there are some other materials that I've put together, and I put them for every chapter. So I could share the whole folder with you, so you have access to everything. But let's do the exercises now. If you want to, well, I understand not everybody is able to do the exercise because of time, etc. But if you can, please stay as much involved as you can, so that we can continue and that the questions you have separately, you can also always ask them. So we have these, we had the letters that look the same, we had letters that sound the same, and we have letters that are the light goes on. Transliterated the same. So we go there. This is paragraph 1.8 in the book. Transliterate into Hebrew. So read the line from left to right, but write the Hebrew letters from right to left. That means at 1. We have the normal S. We have the S with the dot underneath it. We have the S with this wiebetje, I don't know what it is, and an S with an accent to that side. So what is the normal S? Anybody an idea? You may unmute yourself if you want to say something, or I can unmute you all.
De
I
eerste.
have
Samek.
Samech. Yeah. So this is better. The Samech is the first one. The second one, the S with the dot beneath it, is the Tzadeh. The third one, the S with the rooftop, what is it? Takje, is the Shin. And the S with the accent is the Sin. Exercise number 2. The B, the K, and the P. How do we write them? It's the bait, the kaf, and the pe. Agree?
Is de beet niet met een stipje erin?
Yes, I was waiting for it. Very good, Leonard. I was forgetting something on purpose. Because here, there is no dot, no line underneath it. And when there is no line underneath it, you need to put the dot in it. Very good. I was testing you guys. Number 3. The Y, the Z, the Waf, and final Nun. You see the purpose of this lesson? This is the Yud. The Zayin. The Vav. And the final Nun. All these letters have basically the same form. Number 4. Resh, the D, and final kaf. So we have the resh, the dalet, and the final kaf. You see this, all these letters have almost the same form. The resh, the dalet, and the kaf. Number 5.
Haal het is er weer met een puntje erin.
Yep. Correct. Paying good attention. Very good. The T with a dot under it. The M. The S. And final M. The T with a dot under it is the tet. The mem. The samech. And the final mem. You see again, letters that almost look the same, like they're part of the same family. They're not, of course, but they almost look the same. Number 6. Maybe this is better. The hay with a dot, and the T with a line under it. It's the hay, the get, and the tet. Also in here, they almost look the same. Number 7. A G, an N, a Vav, and a comma. A Gimel. Don't forget the dot.
Moet die H, die he niet open zijn dan, die tweede? Of zie ik het fout? Omdat ik al...
The second letter is a get.
Oké, ja. Dank u.
So we have the Gimel, the Nun, the Vav, and the Ayin. Number 8. T and another T. It's the Lamed, the Kuf, the Kaf, the Tet, and the Taf. . Number 9. H with a dot under it. A normal H. A comma from left to left again. A comma from right to left again and back. And the letter R. So the H with a dot is the letter get. The normal H is the letter he. The comma that goes from left to right and back to left is the aleph. The comma that goes from right to left and back to right is the ayin. And the resh. So how is this list called? Anybody? What's special about this series? Why are they together here? Anybody? Are you guys still out there? Nobody? Gutturals and resh. That's what this is. Oh, wrong color. Number 10. Dalet. D with a line, the T, the B with a line, the G, the K with a line, and the P. Dalet. Don't forget the dot. Oh, sorry. It's without a dot. It's underlined. See, I make a mistake. There's a line under it, so there is no dot in the dalet. The taf has the dalet. The bait. The gimel with the dalet. The kaf without the dalet. And the pay with dalet. What is special about this sequence? What are the letters in here? Anybody? Nobody?
Yeah, plosives.
It's, yes, begat kefat letters in a different order. Very good. Begat kefat. Begat kefat. So it's all there. Number 11. A little bit down. Z. Oh. Z. W. R. D. K with a line. B. P with a line. Final M. This is a long list. It's Zayin, Vav, Resh, Dalet, Kaf, Beit, the Pe without the dot, and the final Mem. And the last one, G, K, comma, S with a dot under it, S with a rooftop under it, comma the other way, and final S with a dot. So we have Gimel with a darkish lene, a Kaf with a darkish lene, an Aleph, a Sade, a Shin, the Ayin, and the final Sade. So these are the answers for the lessons, for the exercise. And exercise B is the other way around. You have to write the Latin vowels and consonants beneath the letters. The consonants only. The medeklinkers, the Latijnse medeklinkers. So I know it's a lot to take in. That's why I go slow, because if you don't get the basis right, if you are missing already the essence of how to write and transliterate letters, you will end up in the end in difficulties. That's why the basis need to be strong. How to write the letters, and it's going slow, I know, and you write slow, I know, but do it. It helps you. And if you really want to take a challenge, start to write the first 5 verses of Hebrew in Hebrew from a Hebrew Bible of Genesis. So just take Genesis 1 as a practice. Take your square root paper and start writing your Genesis 1, verses 1 to 5. It will take you time, but when you do this, your hand gets accustomed from writing from right to left, and you start to get a grip on the letters. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you will in the end start to make the letters more and more your own. Yeah. Then next week we will start with chapter 2, and we do the introduction to the vowels, and I will send you a file, and on the file is, where is it? Where is my, yes. It is something like this. It's the vowel chart. I will send you this file, and this helps you enormously to understand all these little dots and T's and underneath the letters. So you can now better understand how to pronounce words and why there are sometimes 3 dots or 2 dots and 2 dots horizontal and 2 dots vertical. It's all in here. So next week we're going to start with chapter 2. I hope you will enjoy this lesson, and I hope you will have time to practice and do the exercise B. So go backwards and then try to write the letters. And if you want to make an extra exercise, not only write the Latin letters, but also the transliteration. So not just the first word is Aleph, of course, in series 1, page 32, like here. This one, the first one is Aleph. So you write Aleph, A-L-F, but write them directly in the transliterated. So you get a comma, an L, and a P with a line under it. That's the meaning. Transliterate, but write a transliteration, not just the letters, but write it correctly. Okay, that ends up our meeting of today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week, God willing. Be careful, wash your hands as much as you can. our Prime Minister said. Yeah! Have clean hands. And I'm looking forward to meet you again. And I hope you enjoy this as much as I do, because I like it to learn together. Yes? See you next week.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ronald. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.